to Corporate Cafecito,
a Latin and business podcast where we share insights and strategies to help entrepreneurs and professionals thrive.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Corporate Cafecito. Today, I brought back my friend Marie again because her journey is not a one episode cafecito. Like this is like, you got to have like 3 of these to keep up with her. So Marie, welcome back.
Thank you so much. I was so looking forward to this day. Thank you for having me back.
So last time you were here, we talked about being a Latina, being in corporate, finding yourself, finding other people that looked or sounded like you and that whole experience. But one of the things that I really wanted to talk about is, the corporate side about your jobs. And I know you went from like psychology to systems engineer, but I think about when I met you, you were like multicultural marketing at PepsiCo. Like, talk to us a little bit about your professional journey.
I'd love to. And Nayeli, it's so funny because whenever someone interviews me or I go speak to a group and they talk about my bio, I always say, I look at my bio and I'm like, is this like the same person has done so many different roles? How did I get there? But yes, I did. I started as wanting to be a psychologist. I really wanted to get my PhD in psychology and kind of had an opportunity to start with IBM and decided to be a systems engineer and went through IBM school and learned everything there was to learn about computers at a time when we were just announcing the laptop. So I can remember being at IBM in the early days, like, don't date me.
There was no work from home because we couldn't take our desktops with us.
No way. And the bows and the white dress, the white blouses and all that. Yeah. So I did IBM. And then after that, I left IBM to work actually on the Santa Fe Burlington Northern merger. I did some consulting. I've done a lot of different things. Went and started with Perot Systems doing mergers and acquisitions and did some work in Argentina and Warburg and got to work with Ross Perot very closely. And I'm not going to go into this, but I did also do several special projects. One of them led me to Costa Rica to look for a kidnapped child. So that was kind of in the middle of that.
Okay, so that one's going to stand out. We're going to come back to hostage negotiation or kidnapping, but keep going.
That's outside of my resume. I don't put that one in my resume. When I go through interviews, I always tell people, okay, that one requires some wine and dinner after the interview. So I left Perot Systems and started with PepsiCo and was super excited. At the time that I started with PepsiCo, it was pretty much all the divisions were separate. There was not a holding company called PepsiCo. And so I started working with Indra when she was a CFO back in the day. And one of the biggest projects we were going to do was to consolidate. We were acquiring Quick Roads and Gatorade and Tropicana. And so we were in charge of building out all of the companies and the infrastructure. I was vice president of technology. I was responsible for the entire layer of technology from all of those companies. So if you can imagine the acquisition, and I can remember my very first day, I never forget this, my very first day, I was told, okay, you need to go to Pepsi in New York and tell them that they're now reporting to you and that some of them are going to have to move to Dallas. I'm like, oh, sure, I'll do that. Right that sounds like something I can do. And I walked into this room of all the Pepsi IT. And I'm, hi, I'm new. I'm PepsiCo, and now we're going to be one company, and you guys are going to be part of us. Oh my gosh,
it was bad.
That was a hard call, but like that. And I will say one story about this. It's important because it was 5 years of consolidation and literally building process reengineering. Connecting to technology that we didn't have, upgrading technology. But the biggest part of that was the people part.
Yeah, that's
so important.
The hardest part too.
The change management. So that everyone lived in sort of their own company, Frito-Lay, Pepsi, Tropicana, Gatorade, we all now had to be one company. And you can't just throw that at them and decide that it's going to happen overnight. But one story that I do remember, and I actually wrote about this on Forbes recently, is that one of the things I had to do was consolidate the customer service desk, which was the Pepsi customer service desk, which I don't know if you remember, but that's where the Pepsi formula was, which, by the way, was under my responsibility. I didn't know that until later. I had to go to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and tell the Pepsi customer service desk that we're going to have to report in to the Dallas, and we're all going to be one happy family. And again, I go up there and meet with 300 people and tell them, soon we will be consolidated. You will all be one, and you can decide whether you want to stay or you could go on to do something else. Okay, that was the worst speech of my entire life.
Oh, no.
Entire life. When you talk about being a vulnerable leader and having the hearts and minds of the people that that really work for you.
Responsible for, yeah.
And responsible for. So it was a humbling experience. I was with HR, and my role was to come in and talk to them for a few days and leave. I decided I was going to stay and meet with every single individual one-on-one. And I did that. And it took me like almost 3 or 4 weeks, and I was going back and forth. I did it. And I have to say, it was one of the most difficult, but the most rewarding experiences of my life. And so many of the people would tell me, well, we didn't want to leave because I've never been on an airplane. Or, I hear Dallas has snakes and I don't want to move to Dallas. I mean, when you get down to what are the reasons that people were nervous about the change, because it's change and how do you start over? There were just humbling reasons and reasons that they needed to be heard. And it really takes you out of this leadership role and how important it is to listen, to hear the stories, and to connect emotionally with your employees. So I did that role. It was extremely hard. We consolidated. And then I can remember Indra coming to me, and I was involved with the ERGs and then Latino, the Hispanic Adelante and everything. And she said, we need a leader to come and run a new organization. It was basically the Multicultural Center of Excellence, started off with the Ethnic Center of Excellence. Yes. And we're going to bring together all of our divisions. But most importantly, Marie, you have to come up with a strategy for PepsiCo. We didn't have a strategy for multicultural. So as you look at even our Latino products and where we over-index with Hispanics and how we build the story with category management and insights, and it was the time of my life. I cannot tell you. It was like birthing a baby. It's just this beautiful baby that's growing and learning. And we got involved with the African American Network and bringing the ERGs into the business and partnering with our diversity and inclusion teams. But most importantly, going out to the communities and being a part of the communities where it really mattered. I mean, where we needed to show up with scholarships, where we needed to show up with breakfast options, with the YMCA and healthy breakfasts. And it was the joy of my life. And I did that.
I could tell that because that's when I met you, and you were happy I was like, I love her. She's always smiling. She's doing great things. Like, this is amazing. She's in our community. She's figuring things out. And the thing that probably floored me the most was this is a job. I never thought that would be a job. When you think about things, you just think they just happen. But yeah, it was such an amazing, to watch you own that and bring that to life. I mean, PepsiCo is still regarded as one of the best companies in terms of their multicultural marketing, et cetera. And I think that you were that conduit, that force of nature that started it.
Well, it's so interesting to look back because it really was a pioneer, and we didn't have anything. I mean, if you think about it, when we had the top-to-top sales team that went out to speak to Walmart and to Kroger and to all of our top customers, no one talked multicultural with them.
No.
So I built all the presentations and went out and spoke to the boards of these grocery stores and these, CEOs to say, do you even know who your consumer is? I mean, I can remember going through this and all the California stores of Kroger. I mean, do we know? So really sort of unlocking for our retailers, who their consumer was and how they build that entire relationship and loyalty with them. There were so many ahas during that time. I mean, it really was a beautiful time. And, when I look now and, things have sort of fallen apart, but boy, did we put a stake in the ground and
Yes.
did we drive an amazing legacy with that.
Yes.
So that was at PepsiCo. And when I left PepsiCo, I did a few startups on that. I did an app, and then I also did a healthy energy drink, and that was a lot of fun because then I was actually running these companies and very small. And at that time, someone from the PepsiCo network came and said, we have an opening that we want you to come join Tenet Healthcare, which is really interesting because I'm thinking, okay, healthcare. I'm not in healthcare. I'm in CPG. I've done all these other things. I've done technology. How does it relate to healthcare? But when you realize it, it's like, who is that consumer? And when that consumer wakes up and has an event or decides they're either going to go to the store or they're going to have an event and go to the hospital or find a doctor or something is wrong, it's like, what's the why behind the why, right? What drives them to that decision and what drives them to those choices? And so it was almost like that whole consumer journey came back. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is an amazing journey for me.
Yeah.
And I was a chief marketing officer, and I also had executive vice president of communications. And what I didn't know, so I ran all of investor relations and all the communication, crisis communication. And what I didn't know was that COVID was right knocking at our door. And I was in the second largest public healthcare system of the country with hospitals all over the country. And so my crisis communication was actually real life, where I had CNN every day and, pictures of hospitals, and I had to intervene, and 7x24, I didn't sleep. I was crisis communication during COVID. So I did all of that. And I was able also to launch amazing campaigns for Tenet, which was this whole community built on care and really bringing care back to the nurses and doctors. And I got all the nurses and doctors to be in commercials, to really own like their bus wraps. I made them all famous. They would wake up and go into the hospital and they're like, oh my gosh, I just saw you on television last night. So I'd love to see their faces. And I was on the board of the Detroit Medical Center. And so I have a real big heart for Detroit. And really, I mean, it was an amazing opportunity. I left Tenet, and I've been, working on my own, doing consulting and advising and doing a lot of speaking and writing books and enjoying myself, right? Because always enjoying myself. But one of the things that I know, which is so important when I look back, is that, this whole thing around leadership and how do I build those steps for someone else to understand what do you really pull out of it? And I have to say, I mean, first of all, do it afraid, right? You said, as we said in the last time we got together, like, what are those defining moments that said, if I go through this fire, I'm going to be okay on the other end. It may hurt, but I'm going to be okay on the other end.
Right.
And so to take that risk when that opportunity comes knocking at the door and you think, no, I'm not ready. Guess what? You are ready. You are ready. Because there's a reason it's coming to you.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes.
I think about right now when you were mentioning COVID. And so in 2019, I left corporate and I started two things, right? Elevar, which is my consulting company. And then I started Priority Parcels, which is a logistics company. And I started a trucking company in 2019. And in 2020, I had a fleet of trucks on the road every day for COVID. And we were delivering Lysol wipes to hospitals. I had a big company with a big internet retailer contract. And then I also had small businesses who were like going to die if they didn't get their products out the door. And so I delivered locally too. And so I think about this is a question. Now I'm going to bring it back to you. When you think about where you started, right? A psychologist, and you went through each change. And if you tried, like when you said you look at your resume, you're like, who is this person? There's no thread that loops every job, and there's not a career path. So how do you build your career path, or what made you okay to be so divergent in your paths?
Yeah, and I look at myself and I think, how did I do that? And sometimes I look at these people that stay within their line. I'm a marketing person and I moved to be a senior marketing person, and then I moved to be a chief marketing officer.
Yep.
And I stayed in marketing, and I think that's great. I did marketing. I was a chief marketing officer. I got there around the clock. I'm not sure I got there. I like I said, I have been so curious and always so open to learning and to wanting opportunities and to get to know people. And I will say also, networking has been so important in my career. I have never built a resume. When people, interviewing for some of these boards or anything else, it's like, could you put a resume together? I'm like, okay. I mean, I'll have to go find a resume. I mean, I have one on LinkedIn, but it's not like I use the resume, because this amazing group of leaders and people that I have connected with, that I've showed up. The first thing you have to do is you have to be competent. So you have to have the skills, but you also have to have courage. And I believe that courage brings confidence. And so you have to be able to be someone that people want to follow and communicate your value, and know that you're not doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for others. So when you're part of a company, you're really doing it for the company. It's like, how can I make my boss successful? How can I help you to be the most successful year that you've had this year? And all of those little steps have added up, where people have come up to me and they're like, we have this opportunity. Like, we have this opportunity for you to be chief marketing officer and executive vice president of communications in healthcare. You've never been in healthcare. You're right. Sure. Let me think about it. Okay. Yes, I'll do it.
I also think though, and my philosophy has always been like, I can figure it out.
Yes.
Like I can figure it out. Like, and I remember one time when I was at Miller Coors, we had a revenue management class, and it was all about regressions. And the guy who was teaching it, like his wife went into labor that night. And so they were like, who's going to teach the class tomorrow? And I was like, I can do it, and it's like, and I think that having that kind of attitude puts you in good positions to have that call when someone's like, I need someone who can do this. And you know what? Marie may not have been in healthcare, but she can do everything else. Like we just have to get her to learn that part.
Oh, absolutely. And I think everyone has that ability, but you're so right. It started back when I was deciding whether I wanted to be a systems engineer or I wanted to go into marketing with IBM. And I decided to be a systems engineer at a time when I had never taken computer science course. And the first thing they're having to put me through was assembler programming. And I'm looking at this thing going, oh no.
Like, I'm too pretty for this.
Oh no. And then they're like, I can do it. I can do it. Someone come and sit next to me one time and then I'll figure it out. And
how were your parents? Were they like, mi hija es ingeniera para la IBM?
Ay, sí, bueno, están tan orgullosos de todo lo que yo he hecho, ¿no verdad?
Yeah.
Pero I do know, and I'm so glad you mentioned my parents, because there is one thing that I want to say. My dad was that North Star. And he always said, si tú puedes, si tú puedes. And, always, con la ayuda de Dios, si tú puedes. There was always this force and this wind, and everything I did was for him. And I can remember, at PepsiCo, I'd get these awards and things like that, and I'd just run home and always give it to them. And they had these trophies and things at their house. So it's like they were the winds behind my life. And do I have to mention this? My 97, soon to be 98-year-old mother lives with me now.
I love that.
And what a force she is. So fast forward through all of life, right? Her house was flooded last year with the floods in Florida. I decided this is it. This is the time for her to come. She is now living with me. And one of the things that she has some beautiful ladies that watch her during the day, and they love the casinos. Mom has been going to the casinos. She never used to go to the casino.
It's so
it's not
funny.
like she was a gambler, but she is now at 97 living her best life. And in June, she'll be 98 and she's living her best life. And it's like, yes, I'm going to try this new thing and I'm going to do it. And she's a force. She is a force. And, I get so much inspiration from that. It's like, live your life out loud. And don't be afraid to try this and to try something new and to say, yes, I can, and to start over. And to remember that we're living our legacy every single day. Every decision that you make is actually taking you to the next decision. And it's basically building your journey. It's so important. Each of your decisions need to be so important, and make sure that you understand how you're making them and why you're making them. But it's so part of what you're supposed to be doing, right?
I know, and I love that. And I've loved watching you with your parents throughout the years, because I remember all your stories, and every year on Facebook I look for your mom's birthday.
Yes.
But you're right. It is like they've shown us, and I think when you talk about courage, right? The hardest part, I think, is the courage to leave your homeland. The courage to go to another country where you're not welcomed or maybe not wanted, and you don't know the language and you don't have money. And I think about, like my parents, your parents, the people who were like, we got to do this. And getting here, I think that part of me, and maybe when, as you say, your North Star, you make me think about my dad, is like, because they did that, I can do this.
Right.
If they did the hard part.
They really did. It's that immigrant mentality, right? I always look at people and I'm like, just walk a day in my shoes and understand why I feel the way I do and why I am who I am today. And know the courage. What real courage means is to say goodbye to your parents, and in your 30s, leave your home country with nothing, and to know that you'll never see them again, and to want to be buried in your own country, and you can't even be buried there. So the sadness and the ashes that are left behind almost gives me power and strength to want to really move forward, and to show them and to stand up for the generations of my family that had to work so hard to get to where they were, and then had everything taken away, and to say, you know what? I am so proud of what you've done, and I'm going to make you proud, right? It's like we still do it for them. It's like, I'm going to make you so proud of who I am. Every minute is important. Don't waste a second, because it's a treasure.
It is, and we don't get it back. We don't get the time back.
We don't get it back.
Marie, as you think about like your professional career, one of the things I always fangirl over you, because you were like my Latina role model, the only Latina on our floor, probably in our building beyond me. But, like, I know now you are, as a consultant and on boards, I feel like you're entering new rooms where you will continue to be that first Latina. Is that still the case?
100%. Yes. Yes. I have some things going on right now where I am the only Latina, and I am entering a new challenge and opportunity. And I am so excited. It's so interesting because, just as I said before, I'm just as vulnerable, and I'm just as curious, and I'm doing it afraid. And all of those things come to roost, right? That's who I am. And I know that I'll get to the other side. And it's exciting. It's exciting that I can go through it, and I have so much emotion about it. But you're absolutely right. And I'm thinking it's so exciting to be relevant, and it's so exciting to be alive, and to be able to give back, and to have a purpose, and to know that you're living your purpose. I mean, that's 100% what we're meant to be. And that's where you live your full life.
I love that. And I think that's a great note to end on, because I will say, and I need everybody to trust me on this one, if someone's going to be representing us in the room, I'm glad it's you, Marie.
Oh, you have my heart. I really do. Thank you so much. This has meant so much to me. Thank you.
To me too. Thank you. And please join us next time on Corporate Cafecito, where we'll continue to speak to inspirational leaders like my friend Marie. Hasta la próxima.
Thank you.